The night was colder than ice. The wind cut through broken walls and empty houses. The ruined colony stood silent. Only shadows moved. Once this place was full of life, but now it was only a grave of metal and stone. A human scavenger walked slowly through the frozen street. He wore an old coat, patched many times. His breath turned to white smoke in the air. He searched for food, for anything he could use to survive. He knew danger was everywhere. Raiders, wild beasts, even the cold itself. As he moved closer to a dark alley, he heard a sound. It was soft, weak, almost like a whisper. He stopped, hand on his small knife. His eyes searched the shadows. At first he thought it was only the wind, but then he heard it again, a weak voice, like a child. He stepped closer, his boots crunching on the frozen ground. In the corner, between two broken walls, he saw movement. Two small shapes huddled together under a torn blanket. One was a girl, older, her arms wrapped around another smaller figure. The smaller one did not move. She looked like she was sleeping. But the older girl's eyes opened slowly, glowing faintly in the dark. The scavenger froze. These were not human eyes. They were alien, shining with a soft light. For a moment he thought of turning back. Aliens were trouble. Many hated humans. Many were hunted too. But then he saw the way the older girl held her sister. She was trembling, not with fear, but with cold. The girl whispered, her voice breaking, "Please, she is hungry. She will not wake up soon." Her words were simple, but full of pain. The scavenger's chest grew heavy. He knew that feeling, the fear of losing someone. He had felt it before, when he lost his family in the war. He looked at the small bag tied to his belt. Inside was only one ration pack, enough for one meal. He had saved it for himself, for tomorrow, if he gave it away, he might starve. But the sight of the sisters in the cold silence made his heart weak. He sighed, then walked closer. The girl tried to sit up, but she was too weak. Her hands shook as she pulled the blanket tighter around her sister. The scavenger knelt down. He opened the bag and pulled out the warm pack. Steam rose from it, carrying the smell of food. The alien girl's eyes widened, glowing brighter with hope. He handed it to her. Her fingers touched his hand, cold like ice. "Eat," he said simply. She nodded, whispering, "Thank you, human." She fed her little sister first, slowly placing the food to her lips. The younger one stirred a little, her face soft with warmth. The older girl then took a small bite for herself. Her body shook, not from cold now, but from relief. The scavenger sat in silence, watching them. He knew he had made his life harder by giving away his food, but in his heart he felt lighter. The night was still cold, the ruins still dead. But in that corner, there was a small spark of life again. As the meal ended, the girl looked at him. Her glowing eyes held a strange mix of sadness and promise. She whispered again, voice shaking, "I will repay you. I will sell my toy if I must." The scavenger frowned. Toy? What toy could be worth a meal? But before he could ask, the little sister coughed softly, and the girl bent down to comfort her. The scavenger stayed quiet, but his mind burned with questions. The cold night went on, but something had changed. The meeting of human and alien had begun a story far greater than hunger, and the ruins whispered with secrets waiting to wake. The night passed slowly, and the fire of hunger kept burning in the girl's stomach. The human scavenger sat nearby, his back against a broken wall. The alien girl held her little sister close, wrapping the torn blanket around them. She fed the last bite of food carefully, like it was treasure. Her hands trembled, her lips dry, but she smiled faintly because her sister's face looked less pale. The scavenger watched in silence. He knew the food was gone, and morning would bring new struggles. The ruins offered little hope, only danger. He wondered if he had made a mistake, giving away his last ration. But every time he looked at the little sister's breathing chest, he felt no regret. The older girl glanced at him, her glowing eyes still faint but steady. "You gave us food," she whispered, her voice hoarse. "You did not have to. No one else would." The human only shrugged, his face rough from cold winds. "I know what it means to be hungry," he replied simply. The girl lowered her head, her arms hugging her sister tighter. Silence filled the alley again, broken only by the whistling wind. But then the girl spoke, her voice carrying both shame and hope. "I will repay you, human. I promise." She reached inside the folds of her blanket, pulling out something small. It was round, shining softly even in the darkness, a crystal sphere, smooth and strange, covered with tiny alien markings. The scavenger's eyes narrowed. At first, he thought it was a child's toy, a plaything to comfort her sister. But the way it hummed, the way it pulsed with light made his skin crawl. This was no ordinary toy. The girl held it close to her chest, then pushed it forward, offering it to him. "If you want, you can take it," she whispered. "I will sell my toy for your kindness." The scavenger hesitated. He reached out but stopped his hand halfway. He could feel the energy from the crystal evoe in without touching it. "What is it?" he asked, his voice low. The girl shook her head slowly. "I only know it was from my mother. She said never to lose it." Her voice broke for a moment, her glowing eyes wet with tears. "But if it can repay the meal, then it is yours." The human leaned back, his heart uneasy. He had seen many strange things in the ruins, old machines, broken weapons, cursed relics, but this small crystal felt alive, as if it was watching him. He wanted to refuse, to tell her to keep it. Yet something in the air told him this toy carried a story far bigger than hunger. He looked at the girl again. Her face was thin, her lips cracked, but her spirit burned strong. She was willing to give up the last gift of her mother, only to repay kindness. For a moment, the scavenger felt ashamed. He had given only food, but she was ready to give her treasure. The little sister stirred, opening her eyes weakly. She looked at the crystal in her sister's hand and whispered softly, Don't lose the star." Then her eyes closed again, drifting back into uneasy sleep. The scavenger frowned. A star? What did she mean? He felt the weight of danger pressing closer, though no enemy was in sight. The ruins were never quiet without reason, and now, with this strange crystal, the night felt even heavier. The girl noticed his silence. Her voice shook, but she spoke again. "Please, do not worry. If you want, I will find a way. I will pay you back." Her words echoed in the empty street like a promise and a warning. The human stared at the crystal one last time before closing his eyes. Sleep would not come easy tonight, but tomorrow would bring answers. And hunger, both theirs and the hunger of others who might be hunting this toy. The ruins had many secrets, but this one, glowing in the hands of a starving alien girl, was about to change everything. The morning came without light. The sky above the ruined colony was covered in thick clouds, heavy and gray. Cold mist slid between the broken towers, and the ground cracked with frost. The scavenger rose from his corner, his body stiff from the hard ground. He checked his empty bag, knowing he had nothing left to eat. Still, his eyes moved first to the alien girl and her sister. They were awake, though weak. The little sister leaned against her elder, her eyes still closed most of the time. The older girl, thin and pale, looked at the scavenger with her glowing eyes. There was gratitude in them, but also something heavier. She spoke softly, her voice carrying like a secret. "I made a promise, human. I cannot break it." The scavenger frowned, rubbing his cold hands together. "What promise?" he asked, though he already guessed. The girl reached under the torn blanket again, pulling out the crystal sphere. Its light shimmered faintly, reflecting off the frost. She held it like a child would hold a fragile heart. "This," she whispered, "it is all I have left. I will give it to you." The scavenger stared at the sphere. He wanted to push it back, to tell her it was not needed. But before he could speak, she leaned closer, her voice trembling. "In my people, debt is sacred. We repay kindness, no matter the cost." She looked down at her sister, brushing her tangled hair gently. "You gave her warmth. You gave her hope. So I must give back." Her words struck him like the wind, sharp and unyielding. He thought of his past, of nights when he had begged for food and no one had cared. He remembered faces turning away, doors closing. Yet here was an alien girl, starving, yet ready to give away her last treasure for a single meal. It made his chest ache, both in sorrow and in something like respect. The scavenger spoke quietly. "You don't need to. Kindness doesn't need payment." But the girl shook her head firmly. "You don't understand. In our world, a debt unpaid can curse the heart." Her words carried weight, as if they were not only belief, but law. She held out the sphere again, pressing it toward him. Her hands were shaking, but her eyes did not look away. Reluctantly, the scavenger touched the sphere. The moment his skin met its surface, a strange pulse moved through his arm. It was like touching fire and water at once. For an instant, he saw shapes in his mind, stars spinning, shadows moving. He pulled his hand back quickly, his breath sharp. The girl watched him, silent, as if waiting for judgment. "What is this?" he asked, his voice low, almost afraid. The girl whispered, "My mother called it a toy, but I think it is more." She looked away, her voice breaking. "She died before she could tell me its truth. I only know raiders want it, and my people hid it for years." Her grip on it tightened. "If you take it, human, you will carry my debt. And my danger too." The scavenger looked at the little sister again, her fragile chest rising and falling. He realized the girl was not just repaying him, she was warning him. The crystal was no gift. It was a burden wrapped in mystery. But the promise in her eyes was unshaken. She would not let herself be free until he accepted it. Finally, he nodded slowly. "Keep it for now. But if danger comes, I'll decide what to do." The girl lowered her head, whispering, "Then my dead is alive, and so is my promise." The wind howled through the ruins like a beast. The scavenger felt a new weight on his shoulders. Not just hunger, not just survival, but a bond sealed in whispers, a bond that would draw enemies from the shadows, and far beyond the broken colony, eyes were already searching. Hungry eyes that knew the glow of the crystal. Hungry eyes that would stop at nothing to claim it. The day crawled forward, heavy with silence. The ruins were a maze of broken towers and twisted metal. The scavenger led the alien girl and her sister through narrow paths. He kept his eyes sharp, watching the shadows. The crystal sphere rested in the girl's hands, glowing faintly beneath the blanket. It was small, fragile in appearance, yet it carried the weight of storms. The little sister walked slowly, leaning on her elder, her steps weak, her breath shallow. Every time she stumbled, the scavenger felt a sharp pull in his chest. He had no food left, no water either, only his will to move forward. But the glow of the crystal disturbed him most. It pulsed like a heartbeat, alive, whispering a secret he could not yet hear. At last they found a collapsed shelter, half of its roof gone. The scavenger signaled for them to sit. The girl lowered her sister onto the ground, covering her with the blanket. Then with trembling hands, she brought out the crystal sphere fully. The scavenger's eyes narrowed as the morning light struck it. The markings on its surface shimmered, shifting like living patterns. "This," the girl said softly, "is my toy." Her words were simple, but her voice carried fear and wonder. The scavenger leaned closer, careful not to touch it again. He asked, "Why do raiders want it? What makes it so special?" The girl's glowing eyes darkened, her voice barely a whisper. "My people said it can awaken things, old things, left by the first builders of the stars." The scavenger stiffened. He had heard stories, tales of ancient machines hidden across forgotten worlds, weapons, ships, knowledge beyond human reach. Most called them myths, bedtime stories for dreamers. But in his gut, he knew this was no myth. The toy was a key, and the ruins were full of locks waiting to be opened. The girl hugged it close to her chest. "When I was small, my mother let me hold it when I was afraid," she said. "She told me it was a toy to make me feel safe, but I saw how she guarded it even when she was dying." Her voice cracked, her hand tightened on the sphere. "Now it is the only thing I have left from her." The scavenger studied her face, thin and tired but still full of fire. He realized she would give her life to protect the sphere, yet she had still tried to hand it over to him, only to repay a single meal. That truth cut deeper than hunger. He thought of his own past again, of how humans had traded blood for scraps, and he wondered if this girl's kind were more human than his own. Suddenly, the little sister stirred. Her small voice broke the silence. "Don't let them take the star," she murmured in her sleep. The scavenger and the older girl exchanged a glance. The child knew something too, perhaps more than either of them. The crystal pulsed again, brighter this time, as if answering the dream. Before the scavenger could ask more, a sound echoed outside, boots crunching on frost, voices carried by the wind. The scavenger rose quickly, his hand on his knife. The girl's eyes widened, her arms tightening around the sphere. She whispered, "They've found us." The little sister whimpered in her sleep, clutching the blanket tighter. The scavenger peered through a crack in the wall. Figures moved in the mist, armed, searching. Their voices were harsh, their words cruel. "The crystal is here. Find the children. Kill the human if you must." His blood ran cold. The raiders had come, drawn by the glow of the toy. He turned back to the girl, her face pale but her eyes unshaken. She whispered fiercely, "I told you, my debt is dangerous." The scavenger nodded, his jaw tight. The toy was no secret anymore. It was a beacon, and now every hunter in the ruins was chasing its light. The girl pulled her sister close, hiding the Krista. While under the blanket, the scavenger prepared himself, every muscle ready. The air outside grew louder with footsteps. The hidden toy was no longer hidden. It had awakened the hunger of men. And soon blood would be spilled for its glow. The silence of the ruins shattered under heavy boots. Voices echoed between broken walls, rough and cruel. The scavenger pressed his back against the cracked shelter wall. Through the gaps he saw dark figures moving in the mist. Raiders, armed with rifles, blades, and hunger in their eyes. They were searching like wolves who had caught the scent of prey. The alien girl clutched her little sister and the crystal sphere close. Her eyes glowed faintly, filled with fear, yet unyielding. "They will not stop," she whispered, her voice shaking. "They will take the toy. They will take us." The scavenger's grip tightened on his knife, the only weapon he owned. He knew steel against rifles was madness, yet running was their only chance. "Stay low," he muttered, pulling them toward the back of the shelter. The girl nodded, her hands trembling but strong as she lifted her sister. The scavenger pushed aside rubble, revealing a narrow crack in the wall. One by one, they slipped through, stepping into a hidden alley. The cold wind bit their skin, but silence was their shield. Every sound felt louder than thunder in the quiet ruins. The raiders spread out, kicking debris, searching corners. "Find the glow," one snarled. "The girl has it." Their words sliced the air, closer and closer. The scavenger led the way, weaving through collapsed corridors, his mind racing, his heart pounding like a drum. Every turn could bring them face to face with death. The little sister whimpered softly, half asleep, half aware. The girl pressed her lips against her sister's ear, whispering comfort. "Hold on. I will keep you safe." The scavenger glanced back at them, guilt heavy in his chest. He had given food, but in return, he had taken their danger too. Now the raiders hunted him as much as them. Suddenly, a sharp voice shouted behind them, "There, the war! Human has them!" Bullets cracked against stone, sending shards flying. The scavenger grabbed the girl's arm, pulling her faster. They ran through a broken stairway, stumbling over loose stone. The sound of pursuit thundered behind them. Boots, shouts, gunfire. Down into the lower ruins they fled. Dark tunnels swallowed them, the air colder, heavier. The scavenger's breath came hard, his lungs burning. The girl stumbled but did not fall, her sister clinging like a shadow. The crystal sphere glowed beneath the blanket, its light leaking through. It betrayed them, a beacon for those who followed. The raiders' lights pierced the tunnels. Their voices echoed, cruel laughter bouncing off the walls. "You cannot hide. The key belongs to us." The scavenger stopped, his knife ready, his eyes searching for escape. He found a narrow passage to the left, barely wide enough for one. "Go," he urged, pushing the girl forward. "Take her and run." But the girl shook her head, her eyes blazing. "We will not leave you," she whispered, her voice firm. The scavenger cursed under his breath, but there was no time to argue. Together they squeezed through the passage, scraping their skin against stone. Behind them, footsteps thundered, voices growing louder. The raiders were close, too close. At the end of the narrow path, they spilled out into a collapsed chamber. Broken machines and shattered glass littered the ground. The scavenger's heart sank. No exit, only walls and ruin. The girl clutched the crystal tighter, her face pale. "They will come," she said, "and they will not stop." The scavenger's jaw clenched, ready to fight, though hope was thin. Then the crystal pulsed, brighter than before. A strange hum filled the chamber, vibrating through the stone. The little sister stirred, her voice a faint whisper. "The star. It wants to wake." The girl's eyes widened, staring at the glowing sphere. The scavenger turned, hearing the raiders crash into the chamber behind them. Guns raised, blades drawn, the raiders sneered. At last, the toy. The scavenger raised his knife, the girl shielded her sister, and in that moment, the crystal flared, flooding the chamber with blinding light. The chase had led them to a dead end, but the toy was about to reveal that it was never a toy at all. The chamber exploded with light. It was not fire, not flame, but a living glow. The crystal in the alien girl's hands pulsed like a heart of stars. Its hum shook the walls, dust falling from the broken ceiling. The raiders screamed, covering their eyes, blinded by the sudden flare. The scavenger pulled the girl and her sister close, shielding them with his body. The glow faded, but the change remained. The chamber walls revealed hidden lines, glowing symbols carved into the stone. Ancient machines long buried stirred with a deep groan. Pipes rattled, gears turned. The ruins themselves felt alive. The raiders staggered back, fear flashing in their greedy eyes. "What is this place?" one shouted, his voice echoing like a curse. The girl clutched the sphere tighter, her eyes wide. It woke something. "I don't know what," she whispered. The scavenger did not wait to find out. "Move," he ordered, grabbing her arm and pulling her toward the far wall. There, where stone cracked, a narrow gap opened, a way forward. The ground trembled as if urging them to flee. Bullets cracked, the raiders firing blindly into the light. Sparks flew as metal rang, the chamber filled with smoke and noise. The scavenger dragged the sisters through the gap, the walls scraping his shoulders. Behind them, the raiders cursed and followed, but the ruins themselves seemed to shift, stones falling, paths twisting. The chamber collapsed, burying two of the raiders beneath rubble. The scavenger pushed forward into a long tunnel, his breath ragged, his knife still in hand, though useless against guns. The girl stumbled beside him, carrying her sister, the Christ. Owl pulsed again, faint now, as if it had spent its strength. Still, its glow lit the way in the darkness, guiding them deeper into the ruins. They emerged into another chamber, vast and hollow. Broken statues stood like giants frozen in time, their alien faces half buried in stone, their hands reaching upward. The scavenger's heart raced. He had never seen this part of the colony. It felt older, untouched by human or raider. The girl looked around, her glowing eyes reflecting the statues. "This is not our world's ruin," she whispered. "These halls were built before us, before even my people." The little sister stirred in her arms, whispering in a dream, "Home. The star will guide us home." The words sent chills down the scavenger's spine. Voices rose behind them. The raiders had survived, their footsteps growing louder. The scavenger scanned the chamber, searching for an exit. He found a narrow staircase carved into the wall, winding upward. "This way," he said, leading the sisters toward it. Every step shook under their weight, the old stone groaning. Halfway up, the raiders burst into the chamber below. Their torches lit the statues with a ghostly fire. "There! Don't let them escape!" Gunfire roared, bullets striking the stone. Chunks of rock fell around them, the staircase trembling. The scavenger pushed the girl ahead, his own body shielding them from the fire. At the top, they squeezed through another broken passage. Fresh air hit their faces, thin but sharp. They stumbled out onto a ledge high above the ruins. Below, the raiders cursed, unable to climb quickly after them. The scavenger pulled the sisters close, keeping low. They crawled across the ledge, hearts pounding. Behind them, the crystal pulsed one last time. The ruins answered with a deep groan, walls collapsing. Dust filled the air as the raiders shouted in panic. The ground swallowed them, leaving only silence. The girl gasped, clutching her sister tighter. "They are not gone," she whispered. "They will return. They always do." The scavenger nodded grimly. The escape was not victory, only survival. The crystal had revealed its power, and now its secret could never be hidden again. He looked at the girl, her face pale but determined, and he knew the path ahead would not lead them to peace. It would only lead them deeper into the storm. The air on the ledge was sharp and biting. Far below, the ruins groaned under the weight of their collapse. The scavenger, the alien girl, and her little sister sat huddled against the cold stone. Their breaths came heavy, their bodies weak, but they were alive. The crystal sphere rested between the girl's hands, glowing faintly. Its pulse was slower now, like a sleeping heart. The scavenger's eyes stayed fixed on it. He had seen many strange things in his years of wandering, but nothing like this, nothing that made the ruins themselves move. "What is it really?" he asked at last, his voice low and rough. The girl held the sphere closer to her chest, her glowing eyes troubled. "My mother told me it was only a toy, but I never believed her." She looked down at her little sister, who slept lightly against her side. "When raiders came for us, they never asked for gold or food," she whispered. "They always wanted the sphere. They called it a key." The scavenger frowned, his rough hands tightening on the stone. "A key to what?" he asked, though he already felt the answer in his bones. The girl hesitated, then shook her head. "I don't know, but I think it opens something old, something dangerous." The scavenger leaned closer, his voice sharper now. "Then why keep it? Why not throw it away?" The girl's eyes flared, bright and steady. Because it is the last piece of my family, she said, her voice fierce despite her weakness. My mother died protecting it. My father vanished for it. My sister only breathes because of it. Her fingers curled tight around the crystal, as if letting go would break her soul. The scavenger stared at her, silent. He understood loss. He understood clinging to the last thing that tied you to love. Yet this was not just memory. This was power. A power so bright it could burn the world. He looked away, watching the mist that curled around the distant ruins. Already he felt the weight of invisible eyes hunting them. The girl's voice softened, breaking the silence. You touched it before. Did you see? The scavenger remembered the flash, the stars, the spinning shapes, the shadows moving. He clenched his fists, uneasy. I saw something, he muttered, not meant for human eyes. The girl nodded, her gaze dropping to the sphere. My people believe the first builders of the stars left pieces of themselves behind, she whispered. They say those pieces can awaken lost machines, lost worlds, lost wars. The scavenger's stomach turned cold. He had heard such tales whispered in taverns, traded in the dark like cursed songs. Most men laughed at them, but some believed if this toy was truly one of those pieces, then raiders were the least of their fears. Empires would rise and fall for it, and here it was, glowing in the hands of a starving child. The little sister stirred, her eyes fluttering open. She looked at the crystal and spoke in a fragile voice. It sings, she whispered. Can you not hear it? The scavenger and the girl both froze. The child's small hand reached out and touched the sphere. The glow brightened for a moment, warm and alive. Her face softened into a peaceful smile. It says, we are not alone, she murmured before drifting back to sleep. The scavenger's chest tightened, unease and wonder battling within him. He looked at the older sister, who was trembling now. She hears it more clearly than I do, the girl admitted, her voice almost breaking. She dreams of its voice. She repeats its words. And I fear one day it will take her away. The scavenger placed a hand on the girl's shoulder, rough but steady. Then we keep moving before others catch the trail, he said firmly. The raiders won't give up, and if this is truly a key, worse will come. The girl nodded, though tears glimmered in her glowing eyes. She held the crystal close, whispering words in her own tongue, a prayer, a promise, or perhaps a warning. The mist thickened around them, hiding the ruins below. The crystal pulsed once more, faint but steady. It carried a secret older than any of them, and with every beat, the scavenger knew their path was no longer just survival, it was destiny, one that neither human nor alien could escape. The mist curled around the ledge as if the world itself wished to hide them. The scavenger led the alien girl and her sister down from the high stones. Step by step they entered a quieter part of the ruins, where broken walls leaned like tired giants. Here the sounds of raiders were gone, swallowed by distance and dust. Only the whisper of the wind followed them, hollow and endless. When they finally stopped, the scavenger built a small fire from scraps of wood. Its weak flame gave little warmth, but it gave them light. The girl sat close, her sister resting against her lap. The sphere glowed faintly under the blanket, its heartbeat steady. For a while none of them spoke, silence heavy but not hostile. It was the kind of silence that comes after running for your life. The scavenger watched the girl's face in the firelight. She was young, yet her eyes carried weight far older. Her voice broke the stillness, soft but firm. You could have left us many times. Why did you not? The scavenger frowned, poking at the fire. Because I know what it means to be left behind, he answered. His words came out rough, but they were true. The girl tilted her head, her glowing eyes steady on him. Your family? She asked gently. He did not look at her, only into the fire. They were taken in the war. I was too weak to stop it. The fire popped, sparks rising. Into the night, the girl lowered her gaze, her voice trembling. I lost mine too. My mother died holding the sphere. My father never returned, and all I have left is her. Her arms tightened around her sister, who stirred faintly in sleep. The scavenger finally looked at her. For the first time he saw not just an alien child, but someone who carried the same wounds he did. Loss had no language, grief needed no translation. In that moment their distance faded, human and alien bound by the same emptiness. You're stronger than me, he muttered, half to himself. You still fight for someone. I only fight for myself. The girl shook her head, a faint smile on her tired lips. No, you gave us food when you had none. That is not selfish. Her eyes glowed brighter for a moment, reflecting the fire's light. That is kindness, she whispered. The scavenger said nothing, but his chest felt heavier. Not with sorrow this time, but with something he had not felt in years. The little sister murmured in her sleep. Her small voice floated like a fragile thread. Don't let the star go. Don't let it fall. The girl stroked her sister's hair, humming softly in her own tongue. The sound was strange, yet soothing, a melody older than the ruins around them. The scavenger listened, his eyes closing for a moment. It had been years since he had heard a song at night. When the humming ended, the girl looked at him again. Human, she said softly, if you wish to leave us, I will not stop you. Her words were steady, but her fingers clung tightly to her sister. The scavenger gave a short laugh, though there was no humor in it. Too late for that. Your debt tied me to you, he said. Now your trouble is mine. The girl's face softened, the faintest smile breaking through her fear. Then maybe your trouble is mine too, she whispered. For the first time, her words did not sound like debt. Eyes sounded like trust, like a bond forming where none should exist. The fire crackled, the mist shifted, and in that fragile moment, longer alone in the world, but the ruins did not sleep forever. Far away, faint echoes of movement stirred once more. The raiders had not given up, and darker hunters might already be searching. The bond that had formed around the fire was strong, but soon it would be tested by betrayal, blood, and the full truth of the crystal's power. The fire burned low, nothing more than red coals in the ash. The scavenger sat with his knife across his knees, listening to the night. The alien girl lay curled around her sister, the crystal sphere hidden under the blanket. For a time there was peace, fragile but real. Then footsteps broke it, soft at first, then louder, deliberate. The scavenger was on his feet in an instant, his knife lifted, his body ready. From the mist a figure emerged, tall and cloaked, his face shadowed, but his voice calm. Easy, human. I'm no raider, he said, raising empty hands. I've been tracking you, but not to harm. The girl stirred, her glowing eyes narrowing. The scavenger did not lower his knife. You followed us, he growled, suspicion sharp in his voice. The stranger nodded, his cloak shifting in the wind. I heard the fighting, saw the ruins collapse. No one survives that without reason. His eyes flicked to the girl, to the faint glow of the sphere under the blanket. And I think I know the reason. The girl pulled the sphere closer, her body tense. You want it, she whispered, her voice trembling. The stranger shook his head slowly. No. I want to protect it, he said smoothly. The raiders are only the beginning. Others will come, far worse, far stronger. His tone was soft, persuasive, like honey over poison. The scavenger's grip tightened on the knife. You talk like you know what it is, he said. The stranger's shadowed face tilted, his voice steady. I know enough. It is not a toy, not a trinket. It is the key to doors better left safe. Hut. His eyes gleamed in the firelight, sharp as blades. And if you want to live, you must give it to me. The girl shook her head fiercely. No, it is my mother's gift. I will not give it away. The little sister stirred, clutching the blanket tighter in her sleep. The stranger sighed, as though disappointed in a stubborn child. You think it is yours, but it belongs to no one. It belongs to the builders. He took a step forward, his cloak brushing the ground. And the builders always take back what is theirs. The scavenger stepped between them, his knife raised. You're not taking it, he said coldly. The stranger's calm smile faded. For a moment his voice was quiet. Then he spoke with steel. You are a fool, human. Kindness will not save you when the armies come. Then his hand slipped beneath his cloak. A blade of dark metal flashed in the firelight. The girl gasped, pulling her sister closer. The scavenger lunged, his knife striking fast. Steel met steel, sparks flying as the stranger blocked. The fight was sudden, brutal, the sound of blades clashing filling the ruins. The stranger was skilled, faster than most raiders. His strikes came sharp, practiced, relentless. The scavenger staggered back, his arm burning from a shallow cut. The stranger pressed forward, eyes gleaming with hunger. Give me the key and I will spare you, he hissed. But the girl's voice rang out, strong despite her fear. No, he saved us, and I will not betray him. Her words cut through the night, fierce and true. The scavenger found strength in them. He parried the next blow, his knife slashing across the stranger's arm. Blood darkened the cloak. The stranger hissed in pain. His calm mask broke, rage twisting his face. This is only the beginning, he snarled, retreating into the mist. You cannot protect them forever, human. The builders will come for their toy. Silence fell on Simor, broken only by the girl's trembling breath. The scavenger lowered his knife, his chest heaving. The fire burned low, shadows long and deep. The girl clutched the sphere tightly, her glowing eyes wet with fear and anger. He will return, she whispered, and others with him. The scavenger nodded grimly, staring into the mist. The bond they had built now carried the weight of betrayal and the promise of a greater storm still rising. The night deepened, thick mist rolling like a sea of ghosts. The scavenger stood at the edge of the fire, his knife slick with the stranger's blood. The alien girl held her sister close, the crystal sphere glowing faintly between them. The peace they had found was shattered, trust burned away by betrayal. Now only the promise of another attack remained, heavy as the cold air. The scavenger listened, every muscle tense. Far in the ruins, voices rose again, louder, crueler. The raiders had returned, and not alone. The stranger's warning was truth. More had come, drawn by the glow. Torches lit the mist, shadows shifting like a wave of hunters. They came with guns, blades, and the hunger of wolves. The girl's eyes widened, her voice breaking. "They are too many," she whispered. "We cannot run." The scavenger gritted his teeth, his jaw hard as stone. "Then we stand," he said, his voice low but unshaken. He turned to the girl, her face pale in the firelight. "Keep your sister safe. Whatever happens, do not let them take the sphere." The girl clutched the crystal tight. Her little sister stirred, eyes half open. "The star is awake," the child murmured softly. "It wants to fight." The scavenger frowned, his heart uneasy, but there was no time to question. The enemy was here. Shouts broke the mist as raiders poured into the broken camp. Their eyes caught the glow under the blanket. Their voices rose in greed. "There, the key. Kill the human. Take the girls." Bullets cracked. The fire exploded in sparks. The scavenger leapt forward, his knife flashing. One raider fell with a scream. A blood dark against the mist. The fight was chaos, steel against fire. The scavenger moved like a man with nothing left to lose. He blocked, slashed, kicked, his body a wall between the sisters and death. But for every raider he struck down, two more stepped from the shadows. The girl cried out, shielding her sister. The crystal pulsed faster, its light fierce, flooding the ruins with alien glow. The raiders staggered, blinded for a moment. Some screamed, others dropped their weapons. The sphere sang with a deep hum, shaking the stone beneath their feet. The girl stared at it, her hands trembling. "I can feel it. It wants to help," she whispered. The scavenger shouted, "Then use it, if you can." Her glowing eyes locked on the crystal. She pressed it to her chest, whispering words in her lost tongue. The sphere answered, light bursting outward like a storm. The ground split, statues cracked, air roared like thunder. Blinding beams cut through the mist, striking raiders down. Their screams echoed, swallowed by the fury of the light. The scavenger shielded his eyes, his heart pounding. He had never seen power like this, not from machines, not from men. The girl stood trembling, her sister clutched tight. The sphere's light poured through her, burning but alive. Her voice shook, but it was steady. "You will not take her. You will not take us." The raiders broke, their courage shattering. Some fled into the night, others fell to their knees in terror. The stranger, wounded but alive, appeared at the edge of the mist, his face twisted in rage and awe. "You fool!" he shouted. "You've woken it. Now none of us can control what comes." Then he vanished into the fog, leaving only his echo. The light faded at last, the crystal dimming. The girl collapsed to her knees, her body shaking. The scavenger caught her before she fell, his voice rough but steady. "You're alive. It's what matters." Her eyes flickered open, weak but burning with fire. Her whisper came like a promise. This was not the end. This was only the first stand. The scavenger looked at the ruins, the dead raiders, the mist heavy with silence. He knew she was right. The last stand was only the beginning of a war much older than both human and alien. And the crystal, the so-called toy, was the spark that would ignite it. The ruins were silent again, but the silence felt heavy. Bodies of raiders lay scattered in the mist, shadows frozen in fear. The fire was gone, its ashes blown by the cold wind. The scavenger stood among the wreck, his knife still red, his breath ragged. Beside him, the alien girl knelt on the broken ground, her arms wrapped around her sister. The crystal sphere rested between them, its glow faint, like a candle fighting to survive. The girl's body trembled, drained by the light she had unleashed. Her glowing eyes looked dull now, her voice weak. "I thought it would kill us all," she whispered. The scavenger crouched beside her, his hand steady on her shoulder. "But it didn't," he said. "You held it back." She shook her head slowly, her voice breaking. "No, it held back itself." Her sister stirred, opening her small eyes. She looked at the crystal with a strange calm. "The star is quiet now," she murmured, "but it is still watching." The scavenger's skin prickled, uneasy. He had seen men fight over scraps, but this was something greater, a secret no one should carry, yet carried by children too small for the weight. The girl clutched the sphere to her chest, her eyes wet with tears. "You gave us food. You gave us a chance," she whispered, "and still, I cannot repay you." The scavenger almost laughed, but there was no humor in it. "You repaid me with trouble," he muttered, "and nearly got me killed." But his eyes softened, his voice quieter. "And yet, I don't regret it." The girl lowered her gaze, her lips trembling. "Then let me promise you, human," she said. "Just a warm meal for my little sister. And I will repay you with my life if I must." Her words were soft but sharp, like a blade wrapped in cloth. The scavenger's chest grew heavy. He had wandered the world alone, living for nothing but survival. Now these two children had tied his path to theirs. He had given them food, but they had given him something he thought long dead, a reason to keep walking. He helped her to her feet, steadying her when her legs wavered. The little sister clung to her, clutching the blanket tightly. The scavenger looked at the misty horizon. "The raiders will come back. The stranger too," he said. "And if this toy is what you say, others will follow, stronger than these." The girl nodded, her eyes steady despite the fear. "Then we will not face them alone," she said firmly. "You are with us now." Her words were simple, but they struck deeper than any blade. The scavenger gave a faint smile, rare and brief. "I suppose I am," he admitted. For the first time in years, his steps no longer felt hollow. The bond between human and alien had been sealed not by blood, not by war, but by a single meal shared in the cold. And now, that bond was stronger than fear, stronger than hunger, stronger even than death. They turned from the ruins together, moving into the mist. The girl carried the sphere, her sister carried hope, and the scavenger carried the weight of a promise. Above them, the sky began to shift, a break in the endless clouds. For a moment, a star shone through, clear and bright. The little sister pointed with a small smile. "The star is showing us the way," she whispered. The scavenger looked up. The girl did too. None of them spoke, for words were too small for that light. They simply walked forward step by step, into a world that would hunt them, but also into a future that was no longer empty. The ruins behind them whispered with secrets still buried. The sphere pulsed faint. In the girl's hands, a promise alive, unbroken, unending, and though danger waited in every shadow, one truth burned brighter than the mist. This was not the end of their story. It was only the beginning.